Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. We've got your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Big day on the United Stand today as well. Make sure you are watching everything that we've got coming up for you. But on today's morning show, we're going to be talking about Declan Rice, Victor Osimhen, the latest news on the transfer market, when football's going to be back, a new centre-back target, and a lot more. But let's start off with this story in the Telegraph. It's Declan Rice for £70 million. But before we talk about that, in the same outlet, they're talking about a transfer window not opening up until the end of August, and most Premier League clubs expecting not to be doing business till September. So a Manchester United transfer delayed really, because we were talking last night about Sancho, weren't we? And when the negotiations might start. Well, they're not going to start till the season's over, and I think most European leagues, if they come back, are going to be not completed until August. So we are going to see looks like we're going to see a movement with the transfer window, which is meant to open at the end of May. So that doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore. Will we get a long transfer? We don't know what we're walking into, really. We don't know what we're walking into at all. But that's in the Telegraph. I think it's common sense. At the moment, we're looking at a June the 8th return for Premier League action. That would take in probably 6-7 weeks of football, which would take us to around the end of July. And then there's got to be a little bit of gap before the new season starts. So August could just be a transfer window in itself, a very short one, which by design will mean less transfers. I think we're going to see a mini transfer window. And if it is just a month, you're not going to see 3 or 4 signings anywhere. I think the most clubs are probably going to be able to do is 2, probably more realistically 1 or none, or maybe at a maximum 3. But I just don't see massive amounts of transfers. I think clubs are going to maybe prioritise 1, maybe 2 at the moment, but we'll see how that develops. But in the same outlet, they're talking about Declan Rice. And just a bit of I have to do this every sort of few months. We've been doing Man United transfer news for about 5 years now, and I still see comments saying, clickbait, you're making it all up. Like every show we do, we talk about where the story comes from. If we don't want to do that, let's just start off with today's news then. United might be interested in Ronaldo and Messi for £100 million. And join us tomorrow when we're talking about Neymar and Bale. And then Wednesday, we're going to talk about Verratti and Zlatan coming out of retirement. All totally made up. We bring you the news in the morning show that is out there. That's how it works. So one day it might be Pogba's staying, one day it might be Pogba's going. But there will be an outlet where it's coming from. It works like that. And I think some people just need that reminder sometimes that when I'm saying in the Telegraph, that means it's in the Telegraph outlet. Some of you might not have heard of it. Anyway, they're also talking about Declan Rice to Manchester United for £70 million. Now, £70 million for Declan Rice, I'm not joking. A few weeks ago when we went into lockdown, you couldn't get pasta for love nor money. Pasta was worth more than Rice. So, and I still think pasta is worth more than Rice, because he ain't worth £70 million. I don't want to go too down on Declan Rice, and it's not even Declan Rice's fault. It really isn't. It's just a personal irritant that I have, where these unproven British players suddenly get hyped up as the next best thing. I will tell you now, there are 50 players better than Declan Rice around his age group across the world right now. But we are focusing in on him, or the press are focusing in on United and Declan Rice, because he's a young player that could be playing for England soon. So straight away, that's what United are interested in. I hope there's no truth in it. If there is any truth in it, Ollie's going back into the Brexit FC days, which we don't need to do. Bruno Fernandes has proven this. We don't need to go and do this. You look at players like a Camavinga or a Babakari Samari or a Zakaria, or they're just off the top of my head. There'll be loads more across many leagues. There's probably about 6 or 7 in Germany. Same in Holland. Like, there'll be loads of players who are better suited to us than Declan Rice at a third of the price. And that rhymes. So look, do I think Declan Rice is a bad player? I've got to be honest, I'm not massively impressed by him. I think I think I've seen many players better than him. I think Darren Fletcher was better at that age. I really do. I think we are. When I was growing up, you had people like Letitia at Southampton, Rob Lee at Newcastle. Really well-proven Premier League players at minor Premier League clubs, comparable to the top 6, who, if they played now, people would be calling them the next Messi. I think we have for so many years we've had a lack of good, decent English players coming through, And now we've started to get some coming through, and we think every single one of them are going to be superstars. I'm not convinced about Declan Rice. I certainly think he's got, what I would say in his defence is, he's playing regular Premier League football in the midfield at 21, at 2021. He's only just turned 21 for a team in the Premier League. And you can't have it both ways. That's what she said. You can't have it both ways. You can't have Jude Bellingham's a brilliant signing because he's playing Championship football in the midfield for Birmingham at 16 and then say, well, Declan Rice isn't a prospect when he's playing in the midfield for West Ham in the Premier League at 20. So he's definitely a prospect, but he's not the right sort of prospect for United. If you get older Jude Bellingham at 16 because everybody wants him and you know he's going to be a future star, that's very different to getting older Declan Rice at 21 who's done okay and might be a future star. Because if you spend like a lot of money on Declan Rice, what do you do with him? If you get Jude Bellingham, he's so young, you can loan him back to Birmingham, you can loan him to a different club, you can develop his career. If you get Declan Rice, he's already been playing in the Premier League. You ain't going to have, he's not going to be happy at 60 million, 70 million quid to come and train with the first team. He's going to have to go into the first team. And this is my issue. He ain't ready. He's not ready for a top 6 midfield. He might be in 2 years. He's definitely got, I wouldn't say definite potential, but he has got potential to get better because of his age, where he's playing, and in 2-3 years maybe he will be a fantastic centre defensive midfielder. But he ain't going to be a fantastic centre defensive midfielder for us now. He's not that player now, and I think that's what I'm trying to say in an elongated way. Is I don't rate him at the moment. I certainly don't think he's worth over £40 million at the moment. And I think his development needs to be at West Ham for the next 2 years. And sometimes you do want to get hold of a player before their price gets inflated. But West Ham are already inflating his price. So we may as well wait until he's actually worth that, if he's ever worth that. So that's what I feel about Declan Rice. But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. We've been talking about United wanting a centre defensive midfielder. And we all think Partey and Diddy, a few others. None of us ever mentioned Declan Rice. But maybe he is a target for United. And maybe he could be Ollie's first mistake. I don't know, in the transfer window. We'll have to wait and see. Another player we've been linked to that I do quite like, and I'll probably get his surname wrong, Victor Osimhen of Lille. He's a striker. He's also 21 years of age. Linked to Liverpool. Le 10 Sport putting Manchester United into the mixer. Look, plays for Lille, as does Babakari Samari, as we know, who is a player that we're interested in. Lille, potentially a club that will need to sell this summer. And this is where, look, there may be nothing in this story, but there may be something to look at, because this is about exploiting the market. And look, if we don't exploit the market, somebody will. And people take it in a bad way. Oh, you're exploiting the market because clubs are in trouble. It's not our fault they're in trouble, and we actually might be able to give them some money to keep them out of trouble. And maybe they're going to have to sell a player that they didn't think they were going to have to sell. And that is sad, but it's just the way the world is at the moment. And nothing's going to change the fact that some clubs are going to have to sell players that they didn't want to sell. And that's why United have sort of got to be, yeah, we're going to take advantage of that, but we will give you the money that helps you survive. And Victor Osimhen could be a player like that. There might be a bargain to be had there. 21 years of age, Nigerian, centre forward. I think he's just over 6 foot. He's actually quite good in the air, but for me, I think what he's all about, from what I've seen, he's very quick, he can finish, and he's an exciting player. He's raw, he's rough around the edges, and look, in the French league, you're going to be, because what can you step up? But to me as well, I think it's interesting because whether United are interested or not, he is a player that can play off the left, he can play off the right, but he's a centre forward really. That to me is a tick in the box. I would love us to buy a striker like a Werner, like an Osimhen, someone like who can play in a couple of different positions, because I think that fluidity is really important. And he's definitely got that step-up ability, which is important as well. But more so than I think of Declan Rice, because I think that this is a striker that, you know, he can come into the Premier League and it's sink or swim. I think you put Declan Rice into our centre defensive midfield position, that's a massive responsibility for somebody. Whereas a centre forward, you know, you've already got Martial, Rashford, maybe Sancho. You know, he's on the bench a bit, but he'll have time to breathe in that position, where I don't think Declan Rice would. I think that he'd have to go straight into the team. For Lille this season, he's played 27 league games, and he's got 13 goals and 5 assists, which isn't too bad for a striker. I mean, look, is there anything in it? I don't know, but he's certainly a player that I think that, you know, could tick a box for United and could be available for, you know, as little as 40 million, maybe even less. So it's certainly not something to not consider. Another player, centre-back, Ruben Diaz, if anyone can remember him, we've been linked to him for a couple of summers, really. Benfica centre-back, I think he's about 22 now. We were linked to him certainly 2 years ago under Mourinho, and last summer we were linked to him as well. We ended up signing Harry Maguire. He's a centre-back that we don't get mentioned in relation to, but could be quite an interesting one, because we talk about, and Rio's on about it, and we were on about it on Sunday night, to win a title, I think many people feel that United need a better centre-back than they've got now to play with Harry Maguire. They need a top-class centre-back with a bit of pace about them. There's concern about whether Eric Bailly is that player. There's concerns about whether Twansebi can fulfil that potential, and I think we all know that Lindelof just hasn't got the pace or the aerial ability to do it. So you start looking around. Is Koulibaly even gettable? I mean, it's one thing wanting a player like that. It's another thing going and getting them. Ruben Diaz, 22 years of age. Do I think he is that player? No, I don't. I think I mean, he's got a £100 million release clause. Barcelona are interested in him, and again, I think Benfica won't be able to hold out for massive fees, but I still think the price will be too prohibitive for Manchester United. I personally think if United are going to go for a defender this summer, they will look at Upamecano, because I think he's probably the best value in relation to transfer fee out there who wants a move. You'd probably get Upamecano for around 40 to 50 million quid. I think Ruben Diaz, you're going to go north of 60. And Upamecano probably is the more suitable player. The problem with him is his injury list isn't that great. So we'll see what happens in relation to the centre-back situation. But Ruben Diaz, that's from the Record in Portugal, who Portuguese press have always had a bit of stick. But I think we've seen over the last 18 months that what the Portuguese press were writing about Bruno Fernandes was fundamentally had some truth to it. So, you know, you've got to take things as it comes and look at it in that way. Just wanted to give a shout out as well. We've got the Flex and Rant show coming up at 1 o'clock. That's live. You can interact with that. I'm doing my FIFA career mode at 2:30. Drew 1-1 with Barcelona in the knockouts of the Champions League yesterday. So it's the second leg in the new camp. You might have seen the Bruno Fernandes free kick going around on social media. Second leg of that is coming up this afternoon at 2:30. I'll pop a little thing where you can subscribe or check it out if you want to check that out. But thanks everyone for watching. A big day on the United stand. That's all I'm going to say. We've got some cracking content coming up for you this evening as well. So make sure you subscribe, smash a like on the video, and I'll speak to you all soon.